Cool. So I see people joining. Just wanted to welcome everyone to our event, our co-founder of Softr, Mariam, and really excited to have everyone here. I think this is going to be a really informative event to kind of learn about the use cases of Softr and the story of Softr, and kind of you'll see a live demo, and hopefully you'll get inspired about how you can use Softr in your own no-code building. So if you haven't already, on the right side in the chat, just drop where you're from. It's cool to see how international this is, and people are joining from all over the world, which is really cool. I'm currently in New York City. And to get started, first, I'd love to just learn, Mariam, a little bit more about your background and what inspired you to start Softr.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you for the invite, and really excited to be here and to share more about Softr. Well, my background is in engineering, so I have been working as software engineer for more than a decade. Then same with my co-founder, and then at one point we just realized we were repeating, building the same things over and over in every other company. So we kept building things like authentication, payments, and all of that. Same structure, same design, same kind of functionality over and over. And even entire companies have like entire teams to do just each of that. So then, yeah, at one point we were like, why not have a platform where all of that kind of repetitive functionality is just offered as building blocks. You kind of get them pre-built, and then you only build only what's unique to your business. So that's really kind of the very original idea of Softr, and then just kind of trying to solve our own pain of not doing things over and over. And for us, no code, really just making building software more visual. That's kind of the very standard kind of abstraction, the next phase of abstraction in software engineering. So it kind of made sense to us. So that's really how we started, and it has evolved along the years quite a bit.
Cool, awesome. And what are some of the main use cases that you're seeing people using Softr for?
Yeah, so I'd say all over. So in general, Softr is a quite horizontal platform, right? So we kind of, if you haven't used Softr, in short, think of Lego. The Lego kind of gives you the different Lego bricks, the different sizes, different shapes, and then you can build any type of Lego out of that. So it's same concept we are kind of using in Softr, because we offer different building blocks and the layouts that already are kind of pre-made to an extent for you, and then you put them together, you get different apps as a result. So the use cases are really ranging from marketing sites, resource directories, marketplaces, which are the most simpler use cases, and then to more powerful and more complex applications like client, customer, partner portals, or more internal tooling within organizations where typically, let's say, product, marketing, sales teams could be building to either use internally with other team members or also with their own clients. So those applications involve more things around roles, permissions, etc., which typically in other cases you might not see. So so that, like, the ranges are quite a range, but our core focus as well as a company is really focused on business use cases, where letting small, medium, big companies build business tools so that will help them become more efficient operationally, or without developer resources being able to build things that they couldn't do before.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like something that really stands out to me about Softr is kind of the ability to build really beautiful apps without having that design background already, which is, I think, really helpful for people who sometimes will build a no-code app, but they might not have that design background, so it kind of ends up looking or kind of the UI UX might not really quite be there, where I think Softr makes that much easier to kind of implement. Something
Yeah,
that I
and
really
we are
appreciate about it.
definitely improving that as well. I mean, there's still some way to go for us on the UI side. That's in improvement, but in general, exactly, that's like one of the core values that we have at Software, is really having extremely simple, easy to use platform. Some of our users, actually, they're completely non-technical and non-designer. Most of them, they also, a lot of the times, they actually cannot use other no-code platforms. It's just too difficult and sometimes complex for them. And sometimes sometimes you see even librarians or like 60-year-old university professor using software. So there's roles and types of people sometimes using. You couldn't even imagine they can really, they're not tech savvy usually, but they figure it out. So that's kind of the level where we really want to be accessible by any non-technical person.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. And also, I just want to point out for anyone watching, in the Q&A tab on the right side, feel free to drop in questions, and we'll get to them at the end as well. So if any questions come up, feel free to drop them in, and we'll get to that later on in the session. Um, the next thing I wanted to ask before we get into the live demo is, I know you all recently released an AI integration into Softr, which is obviously very popular space right now. So maybe if you could talk a little bit about what that enables, and then maybe after that, what are some of the next things you're thinking about potentially working on in Softr?
Yeah, absolutely. So the OpenAI integration actually was done pretty quickly as a Christmas gift to our community. To be honest, it wasn't something that was really kind of at the core of our backlog, etc. We just really kind of spinned it out pretty quickly, and it enables to do two main things. First, really help you generate copy and images for your apps. So imagine you're building an app, and you not everyone is creative. I'm not, and I'm always struggling coming out with the text what it should be. So you could use the OpenAI integration to help generate some of the text of your website or application, or the images. And then the other second part, which is more powerful, is you could also use a building block, which we have, which is specifically working with OpenAI to create applications like Jasper AI or OpenAI, where essentially your application lets other users to generate information, copy or images. So essentially, you could create a SaaS around OpenAI and own that, and also essentially sell that as a standalone product. Those are the two main things. I mean, for the future, we are exploring the AI space, generally interesting. And while I don't believe AI is going to very soon replace all of the building, whether it's by tools or developers, I don't believe that's going to happen, at least anytime soon. But definitely exploring that space. But in general, around the platform, we have quite lots of powerful functionality coming up soon. So some things I'll highlight is one thing that we want to make Softr is a data agnostic platform. So right now we already have Airtable and Google Sheet Beta integration. So we want Softr to be completely data agnostic. So independent of where your data lives, you can still create an app that combines different data sources and lets you create an app on top of that. So that's one thing that's coming, additional data sources. Then action buttons. If people are using Softr already, they will understand how critical this is for a lot of people, that they really want to kind of, so you still can create an interactive application. You still can interact with your application by editing, updating information from the front end. But in some cases, you have to go through Zapier, Make, and do other workarounds. So you will have that. You will be able to do that directly through using action buttons. Plus, also conditional forms is coming, which is another powerful feature that essentially will eliminate the need for you to use any external form provider like Typeform or JotForm, where you have to use them because you have some conditional logic there or some specific needs. And those are things also you will have in Softr.
Cool. That is all super exciting. Lots of really cool things coming up. So next, why don't we go back head into the demo? If Mariam, you want to go ahead and share your screen and kind of show people what's possible in Softr.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do a demo, and then I'll let me use you go through two options. So first of all, I'll go through the website, just quickly explain, also go over the use cases, and then I'll showcase one basic example of how do you build in general using building blocks for those who are not familiar with Softr, and then we can use a template and show kind of a real working app. So first of all, on the page, you can go to templates and always browse through the different examples that we already have. So these are templates. These are called templates, but they're real apps. So for example, if you open a client portal template, it has a preview. So this is the actual real app that's already kind of built. You can always use an app and then change how it works. But in this case, for example, it's a client portal. You can go to your, so there is different roles that in this case the application has. You can log in with different roles. You can have access and have different ways to access and work with the application depending on your user role. I won't go into too much details, but just quickly going over templates. So we have main categories we support are, and the top ones are client portals. So different types of portals for different types of organizations to manage your client, partner, or contractor work externally. So this is more external facing apps. And then there is internal tools as well, where you would build these tools to manage some kinds of processes or information within your team, whether it's actually internal. Client portal should not be under, yeah, so let me take this out. So applicant tracking, for example, HR teams would be able to manage their entire applicant tracking process, or inventory management, investor portal for VCs, etc. So yeah, there is a lot of those, so you can browse through. For now, I'm just gonna navigate directly to the studio and showcase how you build with Softr, the actual building experience. So first of all, when you log in, you land into your dashboard, which contains all of your apps. Plus, also you can start from templates. So for the beginning, you always can start from scratch. Let's just do that. Let's say we want to connect the Airtable later. We don't need all of these pages. So this just helps also for you to generate the very first app with some of the base blocks. So once I create an empty application, it does have the homepage, but the main concept that Softr offers, as I mentioned, it's the building blocks. So building blocks can be static or dynamic. So each of these section, as you see, is a building block, and it consists of some kinds of components. So static are things like headers, things like hero blocks. So you can always navigate and see different examples we offer, feature grid, etc. And then you can navigate to dynamic tab, which are all of the blocks that essentially will let you visualize your data in different ways. So in this case, this requires you to have some kind of database. In Softr, it can be either an Airtable or Google Sheet, which are both relational data stores. So Airtable especially being a relational data store and very useful for data storage. So different blocks that we offer are, for example, forms, which let you submit information back to your Airtable base. User accounts, so adding a user, for example, membership to your app is as easy as just drag and dropping this entire block. It comes in pre-built with the business logic and everything. You don't have to do much. You can simply publish and already your users can start signing up. Then there is also payments. We also have Stripe payments integration, so you can do Stripe one-time payments or recurring payments, and essentially build a SaaS app as well. Then, of course, the more baseline kind of blocks are different list layouts that you can choose to visualize the data, list details to visualize something very specific, one specific page, tables, inbox block, calendars, Kanban to have your mini kind of project management as well, chart blocks to really visualize and create dashboards and different types of more summary data. Summary card is another one. Organizational chart, comments. Your users can add comments, reply, etc. inside your app. So it's very handy whether it's you're building external or internal app. Yeah, maps and some Twitter blogs. So there's all of these blogs. Essentially, the way it works is you just add them to your page, you click on that, and then you can right away change the content here on the page. So once I change, I already see the information updated. I can update images. I can change like positioning, etc. I can also update the styles. So a lot of things are customizable. I don't know how much should I go into details, but I'm just trying to cover very high level because I assume that there might be some people who don't know Softr at all. So all in all, it's pretty customizable, but there is also constraints, and that's exactly what makes Softr very easy and powerful to use, because you can't break it, but at the same time you get a nice and beautiful application right out of the box that looks good and functions well as well. And one of the powerful features in general of this, as as well visibility rules. So depending on what user is logging in, you can control what they see in the application and what they can do. For example, you could say if it's a logged in user, only this section is visible to them. If it's not, then they can see something else. Actually, I'm going to show that more on the template because it's more visual. But this is kind of the main building block concept. Now let's go back and start from a template. So it's already kind of built and looks better. So for example, I'll go through employee template. That's one example we offer. There's different pages. You can always browse and see what's offered, what's given. Then we're going to use a template. So for using the template, because the template is a dynamic one and it comes with a database, Airtable database already pre-built with it. So I'm going to add that database to my account as well. So this is my test account. So I'm just going to open and copy my key. Actually, yeah, they changed the structure. Like, give me a second. I'm just gonna switch on.
Yeah, no problem. I know Airtable recently is making a big API change on their side.
Yeah, I actually didn't know they already removed the way to copy your Airtable key.
In the meantime, while you're doing that, I can kind of speak to some of the cool use cases that I've seen with Softr. One, there's a newsletter that some of you may subscribe to already called No Code Exits, and I know that the Kat, the founder of that newsletter, uses Softr. I'm pretty sure for the kind of hosting the blog. So kind of that's one use case that you can go check out to kind of see a live Softr instance. So all right, I'll pass it back over now that it seems to be working.
Thank you. Yeah, they made it harder to find the key. They have hidden it behind
Cool.
the developer portal. Okay, so I put the key. I added the key to in my setup journey. So next thing is I'm just gonna copy this base to my Airtable account. So it asks me to copy it here. So I'm just gonna say copy, and so what it does essentially, it copies the template base that's offered. For those who don't know Airtable, so this is how it looks like. It's essentially a relational database, and you have table where all of the employees are stored. They have different roles assigned to them and different personal information here. Then there's another table called employee time off, where people can come in and request time off. So this template essentially is an employee directory, which lets you as an employee browse through all of the other employees of the company, check out profiles, see what department they belong to, and also you can submit information and you can submit expenses and time off through the platform as well. So something like an HR platform, mini platform. So now let's say, okay, this already copied it. I'm going to create an application based on this template. So once it's copying, I'm going to see already the copied template entirely in my Softr editor. So I see all of the pages already, and when I click, it's going to be connected to my Airtable base. So the way it works is basically we have this list, which is just one layout that is used already in the template. There is these 5 tabs that you have to fill out. So essentially, you connect your source, you use which base you are going to use for this specific blog. Then you have to choose a table where the data is going to come from. You can also do other configurations. You can also filter out if you want, for example, the team members to log in and only see their team information. You could also add a conditional filter here, but for a minute, we will leave this aside. And then under Features tab, you basically are going to create the mapping. So while the blog is, the default blog has some default images and default text, essentially all of this text right now seen here is coming from your Airtable base once you start mapping them. So below there is something called item fields. So once you can add a new field, for example, and let's say it's a text, and below, as you can see, it adds a new field. And then you can say the content is coming from whichever field of your Airtable. So these are all of the Airtable fields that you already have here that we just copied. And I'm going to choose, for example, department, and it's going to show the department of that person. So you do the mapping of each field. You can decide what types of fields to add, how many, etc. Then you can also decide what happens once someone clicks on this person item, on the list item. Does it open a new page? For example, in this case, it opens an employee detail and shows more information. Does it open a pop-up, or does it just do some other action? So there's different actions that the person can perform. So you can also, of course, configure styles of the entire blog and elements inside, and then you can define visibility. We'll get to that. So in essence, when you copied the entire template, it already copied all of the pages and everything from the template. So it comes kind of pre-built. I could start already building on top of this, or I can simply just connect my own base, my own database as well to this front end that I just copied. So that's kind of in essence, in a nutshell. Very quickly, I'll also go through and show some of the interesting features, what you can do with the app. So for now, let's just quickly publish and see the actual copied application in real life. So when I click this is the employee portal. So I can click sign in. There is some test users that already comes pre-built with Softr, with the template. So now I'm signing in as a manager. This application has two different user groups, essentially roles. The user group can be a bigger concept beyond just one role. But as an application manager, for example, as a manager, I can see all of the employees. I can navigate through employee profile. I can also see all of the, for example, if I'm an HR manager, sensitive information as salary. I can see additional information that maybe normal employees cannot see. So then I can also go to departments, see all of the departments, browse through department-specific employees. Then I can go to the org chart. This is the other block I just showed, and see who's actually in each department. I can also submit an expense through a form we offer, and I can book a time off as well. So so now let's now update the application so that we can let the admin, the manager, update information, profile information. Here, as you can see, there's no way to update this information, right? So it's just showing information from my Airtable base. So now if we go back, actually in between, if there are any questions, happy to answer. So please just shout out and I'll stop and continue and answer the questions.
Yeah, there's a few questions in the Q&A tab that we can
let's do that and then move on to updating.
Yeah, definitely. So one person asked, how far off is the Notion integration?
Good question. So it's in our backlog, but I would say it's not yet at very high priority at the moment, because so far we have been analyzing what are some different use cases and the demand from the customers. I would say we haven't seen too many use cases with Notion. Yeah, definitely there is some more prosumer use cases of more resource directories. So essentially I have something in Notion. I just want to create a website on top of it. That's one. But other use cases we're still exploring, to be honest. So it's not really prioritized yet, I'd say.
Cool. Next question is from Jeff. He has a local business and an event directory website that has lived on WordPress for 10 years. I've already got most of the business in Airtable. I guess my question is there an existing Softr template that would be best for this use case, both business and events?
Yeah, we're actually just launching that one. So there is actually one which is not very interactive here. This is more of a website. So there is something for events, event listing. It's already using Airtable, so you could use this potentially, but there's no login sign-in functionality. So if you click on it, you'll see details. So event details, you can buy a ticket. In this case, the buying is just directing you to that specific place. But what we are launching soon is an actual, if it's an internal tool, what you are planning to do, the one we are launching is more internal facing. So essentially, as a business owner, you can create more like a portal where you can manage all of the event operations, logistics, and all that. And at the same time, inside the same app, you can also have a public facing part where your attendees of your event can log in, can have their own profiles, can update or join different sessions, see who's the speakers are, etc., etc. We actually just recently joined an event where I was invited as a speaker, and to my surprise, I didn't know their entire attendee portal, like the event attendee portal, where you can log in and see the speakers, etc., was all built with Softr. So it definitely is a use case we have seen quite sometimes.
Cool, awesome. Next question is, what was the most unexpected use case for software that you've seen?
There is quite some interesting use cases. Unexpected, I'd say sometimes we see websites, especially more on the website like website use cases, some interesting designs, really really interesting, where we don't assume that's built with software, but because people also do a lot of customizations, not just what we offer, because what we offer also is limited, right? It's not Webflow, so there is some limitations. But sometimes we see people who have applied custom css or custom html, and the applications are looking extremely well, and they are like very very unique and very custom, and it turns out it's built with software. So those are some interesting ones. But the more impactful ones, I would say, we have had quite some governments and non-profits building apps where they, for example, would help people from Ukraine war to find houses, or they would help during earthquake. They would help people with some help materials and other things that quickly putting together something like a marketplace where both sides, like the people who suffered and then people who can offer help, they come together within like days, and if not in hours. And yeah, those are the most impactful use cases we are really proud of.
Cool, that's awesome. In terms of, okay, so next question is there a template marketplace similar to Webflow?
So we are planning that. We're working on that soon. So we're working on that, and soon it will be launched. So without mentioning dates, right now we're working with a very select number of creators that are producing creative templates, and we will have something like that coming out pretty soon. For the beginning, we won't have payments. It will just be really a templates and library that people can create, share, have their own creator profiles, and really share with their own creator communities. But also there will be a way for people to set any of their apps as templates, even just if it's not going to be published on the marketplace, will still be possible. So you could then go ahead and create your own, sell it on Gumroad and other places. So it's coming soon.
Cool, that's very exciting. I feel like anytime kind of you can unleash the creativity of the community as a way to
We
sell templates and
actually
kind of is really, really cool. Go ahead.
Yeah, we actually have seen already some people that created apps, and they were selling on Gumroad, surprisingly. But we have seen
Yeah.
also one on Etsy, which was really really strange. But things happen, so people are doing it.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. Very cool to see. The next question is there a use case for someone who wants to create a website for users to keep their own notes about different topics that are separate from other users' notes about the same topic? So it sounds like maybe an app where when you log in, you're able to kind of write information that is only viewable by yourself. Is that currently a softer use case?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a first. I mean, in general, any kind of notes, whether it's comments or anything that you as a logged in user are doing, that's very specific to you. So it depends on how you structure your database. But yes, you can definitely define the database structure and the application side so that it's still maybe a same page, but you, for example, take some notes or in or comments, and it gets entered into your database, but it's very specific, linked to your user and not someone else. Yeah, definitely. And then also you can create pages where in that page, instead of showing all of the comments, of course, it filters out and only shows your own comments, for example, under your profile or your own notes. or it's not also available to others. But let's say if it's 5 people and I log in and I can only see my own profile, under my profile I see my notes, but if I go to someone else's profile I don't see their notes. You can definitely do that. So all of that to control what people see and what they don't see is, for example, if let's say this is a profile page, so because it all works with building block concept, so you could simply say, this is a profile part. This part is going to be visible to everyone, but then this one, bio, for example, I could simply say the visibility is only for all the logged in users where the user group is manager, for example. Or maybe the logic here would be that only the user that is myself. So if it's me, then only in that case I can see this little block.
Perfect. I think that was a great demonstration there of kind of how it's possible to do that. The next question is, Jeff is asking about the difference between the term app and website, and is it interchangeable? Is there a difference? I can maybe take a quick stab and then see if Mariam agrees. But I would say generally, like an app is a little bit more dynamic or interactive with a database in the back, uh, where like users can kind of do an action such as maybe submit a note, and then it kind of then is something that user can interact with, versus a website, which I view as a little bit more static, where it's kind of just something that people see, even though there can still be a database in the background. So to me, it's a little interchangeable, I guess. But that's kind of how I view it. So I'm curious, Mariam, how you all view it at Softr, since you're building a tool that kind of creates these apps and websites.
Yeah, it's always a discussion point, right? Because depending on who you ask, sometimes people will say website for the same thing that others are calling web app or application or just app. So it is confusing, and I think yeah, we kind of tried then we changed also naming several times on our website, on our marketing side, to kind of try to position it in the right way, but it's always difficult. But in my head, as maybe more of coming from engineering background, website is something static where you just have marketing site showing static information, just manually typed. And then application or web application is something where you have actual dynamic database and business logic. You have a backend, you have a front end, and then you have a business logic in between. That's what Softr typically offers. And then there is an app, which typically actually people might also argue that app is a mobile app, right? Sometimes that's also the thing people call. So app then could also be the mobile app. In our case, we also offer mobile apps. You could also simply go into settings and mobile app. You can simply turn this entire web application into a mobile app by just clicking on this button. It creates a progressive web app that you can download on mobile and experience the same way like you do on web. So it's difficult for us to kind of keep one name, but I would say in general, app or web app is probably the most, or custom application is the most closest to what we are doing.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it. And yeah, I always also struggle with no code MBA with the marketing of how to use those words. Totally. The next question from Chris is, can Softr integrate with APIs? And then kind of describes wanting to generate a PDF based on inputs. Sounds like through an API. So is that currently something that Softr has the ability to do?
Not offering yet at the moment, but it's work in progress. Yeah, once we connect to any REST API, then you could essentially connect to any external API in that matter.
Cool. Yeah, awesome. I guess on that note, that could be helpful for people. I think we've kind of gone over a lot of really great use cases for where people would want to use Softr, but I guess, are there any other maybe use cases where Softr wouldn't be necessarily the best fit? Like, sounds like with an API currently, that's not currently there. Is there anything else where someone might want to either it's not currently there, or something maybe in the future that they would want to be following Softr, that okay, then that use case would be there?
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, you can't have a product that works for every use case, or maybe it does, but then it's becoming extremely complex and difficult to use, right? So are, well, we have decided intentionally to have some constraints on the building experience, and also the flexibility and constraints that we have, in order to make it extremely simple to build the building experience, to optimize for the best and simplest building experience. That on its own means that there's going to be limitations. For example, when you want to build a very custom marketing site with animations, with, for example, like buttons placed whatever wherever you want on the page, etc. So those types of cases where it's a very custom marketing site, then, for example, Webflow is a perfect solution for that. But then in that case, it's also very difficult, right? Difficult for a non-tech person. If someone was able to use Software because of the Lego concept, in Webflow, it does require more technical and design skills. So there is always this trade-off, and that's one use case. But however, even if you look at our website, our entire website is built with Software. So all of the pages, whether it's like with all of the building blocks and the lists, etc., all of that is built with Software. So you can kind of get understanding of what is possible and what's not. And then on the other hand, what's not possible at the moment is any kind of app that essentially needs to have other types of databases like MySQL, Postgre, or other data sources, Notion, and REST APIs, which is coming. But at the moment, it's not yet possible. What people do instead is they typically migrate their data into either Airtable or Google Sheets, and then they can easily build the app on top. But that's kind of an intermediary solution until we have all of the other backends as well.
Cool. That's helpful to kind of get an understanding of. Another question is, does Softr currently support push notifications? And I know that might play into the progressive web app that you support, and I know Apple is releasing that ability. So maybe you could speak a little more to that.
Yeah, not yet, but hopefully soon it's coming as well. Because yes, we also are we also jumped on the opportunity because that's much easier to do now with the new release. And yeah, that's kind of in the plan. We'll hopefully, I mean, it's not that complex. We already have kind of a prototype internally, but hopefully soon also we will have that in the mobile version.
Cool. Awesome. Anyway, I think that's all. I think I covered all the questions in the Q&A for now. If you want to jump back to the demo, if there's anything else you wanted to touch on before we close up.
Yeah, I think what would be interesting for a lot of people is to see how the editing interactivity of the app, the editing functionality, because a lot of the times you don't just want to have an application which only shows data to some people, right? Then it's more just view application. But in Software, you can also, of course, have back and forth communication and let people manage information instead of going to the Airtable directly or Google Sheets, because also a lot of the times you don't want to give access to all the people directly to your database. Then they can manage all that information, what really belongs to them, through the app. So to show that use case, I'm just going to show, first of all, you have to have the concept of user groups. So anyone who signs into a Software app has to belong to some kind of user group that you have created. If you don't have any user group created which are custom, by default they all fall into logged in user group. So that's the name of the user group, and then they can perform all the actions in the app. However, you can also create your custom user groups. For example, in this case, there is a manager group which says it's all of the users. The condition is that it's all of the users where in Airtable the employee type matches manager. So if we go back to our employee directory base, we will see that each employee has a field named employee type, and it's employee type, either manager or employee. So now if you go back here, so all of those users who sign in from that list that are managers will fall into this group. Then we can have another one. Let's create another one, which is employee. In this case, it's simply going to be all of the employees whose employee type is, I think that was employee type, the name. Yeah, is employee. Okay, then let's create this user group, because what I want to showcase is that when I log in as an employee, I can't edit employee information, but when I log in as a manager, then I can. So in this case, okay, now we have two kind of user groups. So for this blog, what essentially we want to do is enable editing. So I'm going to click on this block, and there's a setting called edit. So here I simply need to say allow users to edit this information of the blog, and then I only want to let managers to update this information. So there's a note here saying that you don't have permissions created for that manager to edit information. So what we need to do is just simply go back to settings, and there is edit permission section here where you basically need to create a new permission that says edit employee profile permission, for example. And in this case, I only want to let managers to update that information from the same database. So I also very granularly, you can control of what fields and what records this person can edit. So for example, you could say, okay, the managers log in, they cannot update the date of birth because it doesn't make sense, maybe in that scenario, but they can update employee job title, for example, location, and name and phone number, for example. And then you could also, for other use cases, you could say, I don't want the people to edit all of the records. For example, imagine I'm logged in as an employee. I can see the tasks of all of my team members, but I only can update the status of my own task, the one that's assigned to me. That's how you would control. That's what is called record level permission. And here you would control that. But in this case, we don't need that. So for managers, we want to just enable that they can edit these specific fields. And then you could also come in and create another permission for employee that can only edit, for example, their name. But in this case, we don't need that. So let's just create this one. So once we have that permission created, so that's already good enough. I have the editing enabled. Let's just publish and go back to our application. So when I refresh, because I'm logged in as an admin, so let's check again. This user is an admin. So Pat, let's go back here. When we look at Pat's profile, here is Pat. She's a manager. So now let's go back. Because she's a manager, and when we open employee's profile, we see this update edit icon, right? So when we click, you will see that only the fields that I selected there are available to be changed here. So I could say new, and I update the information here. It right away will update the information on the page. And if we go back to the Airtable base, we also will see that the information got updated here. Let me do a refresh. Yeah, here the name updated as well. So actually in Airtable, it updates obviously slower. So that means I could now edit the information as a manager. So now let's log out and sign in as an employee. And the employees, if you remember, they don't have access to edit employee information. So once I sign in, I'll just go to a specific profile. Doesn't matter which profile. And as you can see, I don't see the editing button, and I got update information because I don't have the rights to. So in short, that's exactly the power, kind of the main powerful features that Softr offers is both ways. Is an interactive application where you can manage how your employees or different user groups see information, how they consume information, and then also how they interact with that information and what permissions do they have to what things they can do within the application. That's, I guess, it. If there are questions, specific questions, happy to answer those. But yeah.
Cool. I have one question, and if anyone else has any other questions, feel free to drop them in the next few minutes here. But my question is kind of about a logic and kind of off some of the logic that you're talking about, and kind of what's possible in software right now. Is it possible to do kind of like if this happens, then that happens type logic in software? Is that currently ability? I guess kind of a little more information on that.
Not yet in terms of as workflows, but what you can do is there's two things. First, once we have the conditional forms soon, you can do that type of logic within the conditional form. So let's say if this field was selected the value X, then the other field should show up or something else should happen.
Yep.
So that will be available under conditional forms. and you can do automations, more rather automations after something happens on your app. Let's say you click a button, you update information, and then based on that, you can also define automation using Zapier and Make, or just the Airtable itself. So for example, if you want to click a button that says update status, and then it will also send an email to the user that something got updated. That has to be now handled through Zapier, Make, or Airtable. But it's something we definitely have in mind, and we definitely want to have at least some of the basic workflows, these types of workflows covered within Software as well. We definitely will get there, but not yet.
Cool. No,
Not
that's
yet
definitely
natively.
helpful. Yes, yes. Awesome. Cool. Any other questions for anyone? Feel free to drop them in the chat or Q&A. Otherwise, thank you so much, Mariam, for coming on. This was really helpful, hopefully, for everyone in here to learn a little bit more about Softr and how it works. I think Softr is one of the best tools for a non-technical person to come in and start building something, whether it's an app or website, whatever you want to call it. But and building some pretty complex apps with a lot of visibility logic and conditional logic on top of it. So really cool to kind of have this demo here. If you want to learn more about Softr, I would recommend checking out Softr's YouTube channel. I know has tutorials. No Code MBA, we are hopefully in the future going to have some tutorials for Softr. We do have Airtable tutorials, which are going to help you a lot, because with Softr, knowing Airtable is going to be really helpful to kind of build out your database. So definitely check that out. And otherwise, I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thank you, Seth. Thank you as well for inviting, and hopefully this was helpful. And let us know if you have any questions. We also have customer support chat that's live available and can help you with the building process. If you have any questions, etc., feel free to send a message to us. And yeah, as Seth said, we have also Academy that we're kind of now creating lots of videos and lots of content also from our community. So definitely check them out.
Cool. Awesome. And yeah, I see someone posted earlier in the chat that the customer service of Softr is remarkable, quick, and very knowledgeable. So
thank you.
Definitely reach out to them if you have any questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'm going to go hop in the networking session. Thank you, everyone, again for joining.
Thank you. Bye-bye.